Earlier today, before heading out, I kind of went online just to browse the news for the day, and I read that there were studies that showed that people have more accidents on the day of the daylight savings time change in both directions. Actually, I'm a little bit surprised by that because when you think about it, nobody sleeps consistently every day. I would imagine going plus or minus 1 hour from your regular bedtime is not that abnormal, especially in the United States and or any country that has artificial lighting for that matter. It's a little bit surprising. I was a little bit more cautious while I was driving today for that reason. Not because of myself, but because apparently statistically more people were affected by it. But it makes me wonder if it's because of the psychological impact of it. You know, nobody goes to work and worries about how they slept an hour later or earlier than they should have last night, or if they woke up an hour, earlier or later. And it just makes me wonder if all this drama that we give to daylight savings time is perhaps doing more harm than good. And it doesn't even save us energy anymore, from what I heard. 5 years ago, I had an experience, and what had happened was I had just moved to Seattle. I moved from New York. And my first day in Seattle, I didn't have my home set up yet, so I had to stay in a hotel room. And I went out to get some food to celebrate. I was in a festive mood because I had just arrived in Seattle and kind of celebrated a little bit, and celebrating getting my new job as well. And it's just in a festive mood. And I went out to get food, but before I could wolf it all down, I crashed. And I went to bed at a very good time. It was a little bit earlier than my normal bedtime, but it was good. And I woke up and I had time to unwind myself before checking into my new home. And after I checked into my new home, I went to see a coworker that I would be working with. I had some time to review some stuff that I needed to review before starting the job. And I was like, oh my God, when I was living in New York, it never felt like I had enough time. Well, first of all, in New York, nobody lives close to the city. You would have to be Bill Gates to live anywhere near your workplace in New York. That's the first problem. The second problem is that there's just so many distractions in New York. I leave the office and I swear I'm going to go straight home or straight to my favorite hole for socializing. I swear I'm going to do that, but as soon as I leave the door, there's just so much distraction. There's a street vendor, there's interesting stuff on the street, a lot of lights, a lot of distractions, and before you know it, 3 hours have passed and you didn't make it to your social event, and by the time you get home, you have to go to bed because otherwise you're gonna miss work tomorrow. And I didn't find Seattle to cause that kind of problem for me. And so I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to arrange my day so I can feel like this every day? And then I realized I can't. I only had such a good 2 days because of the extra 3 hours I have during the day. And so it makes me wonder, why are people having more car accidents in October when we have that extra hour? It's just so weird. When I was, every time I travel to Asia, I feel so good in both directions because I get an extra 12 hours in both directions, and I tend to spread it out. So during the vacation, I might get an extra 2 or 3 hours every night, depending on how many days I stay there. Actually, if I stay 3 weeks, the end of the vacation is not as nearly as enjoyable as the beginning when I'm adjusting to it. When I fly home, having those extra 12 hours to spread out over the next few days kind of eases the pain of returning back home. I just find it very interesting. Actually, earlier last summer, I was in Taiwan for a conference, and on the way home I got to stay in Japan for one night. I went to an internet cafe in Tokyo, and then the next day I flew out of Tokyo. And when I got to the airport and I checked into security and went to the gate, it really hit me like a ton of bricks that I don't know if I'll ever go back to Japan. I don't spend a lot of time in Japan because there's no computer game conference for me to go to. I don't have any people I visit in Japan regularly. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks that one of these days I'm going to leave Japan, I'm never going to come back. It just hit me like a ton of bricks because I don't have a reason to go to Japan, but I like it, so it's a tricky one for me. A few years ago, I was very upset at a friend of mine because he lives in the Seattle area, just like myself, and I knew he hadn't taken a vacation for some time, and he told me he was going to go on vacation, so I kind of felt excited for him until I heard he was going to Las Vegas. And I just felt like it's a huge waste of a vacation. Because when I go on vacation, I actually want to change time zones so I could have those extra hours like I mentioned. And plus, I don't want to go to a high-stress place like Las Vegas. You know, life is Las Vegas already. You know, life is already very stressful, and I don't want to add even more stress to my life by going on vacation in Las Vegas. You know, my idea of a vacation is somewhere on the beach, you know, and somewhere where I can have those extra, 26, 27-hour days for a couple of days. 2 years ago, I went to Gdansk, Poland, and what was really nice is because you're at such a northern latitude, and also because when you look out at Gdansk Bay, you're looking toward the north. It's a very interesting view of the night sky that I don't get to enjoy here in Seattle nearly as much. The only problem is I usually go to Gdansk during the summer, so you only get a few hours of nighttime. I hope to go during the winter at some point, just to view the night sky if nothing else. The other thing I like about Gdansk is that here in the United States, I run into trouble a lot with, God, I hate to be racist, but when I talk to a Hispanic person, I have very difficult time communicating with them. Their language skills are not very up to snuff, and I have to sometimes dumb down those words that I'm using. I used to work with somebody who was like this, and I had to dumb down my vocabulary, so I had to avoid using those SAT words, if you will. And when I do that, it interrupts the flow of my communication. See, when you talk to somebody, especially in the workplace, half of the communication is body language. And when you have to use words that you don't want to be using, it interrupts that body language. I didn't have that problem in Gdansk. There are plenty of people who speak English there. Of course, the people who don't speak English, it's an even bigger problem, but it doesn't seem to bother me as much. But if I were to go to Las Vegas and I run into one of those people, God, I don't want to be interrupting my vacation over such. And I'm so glad that I switched jobs over that, because just not being able to communicate with my boss was really eating at me. And it's just one of those things that you just have to know yourself a little bit better. Thanks for watching.